Okay, let's call the meeting to order today, April 4th Board of Directors meeting. The meeting is conducted in a hybrid format, both in person and remote, and is recorded and live streamed. Welcome, everyone. And I did in fact have to wait till 3 o'clock to start. I checked that out before I did. Clerk, could you call roll, please?
Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Mayor Frizzell.
Present.
We have Mayor Kyoko Matsumoto Wright filling in for Mayor Marine today.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Mead.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Merrill.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Payne. Here. Thank you. And she is filling in for Mayor Nearing today. Labor Representative Norton.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson. Mayor Roberts.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Schweddy.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, we do have a quorum. For our board alternates, we have Councilmember Mike Gallagher in attendance, and that concludes roll.
Yeah, thank you. Public comment. So we're now open for public comment. Each speaker has 3 minutes to provide comments, and in room, the chair will call you when your time to speak at the podium. And if anyone else is joining remotely today would like to speak, we ask if you would raise your hand and feature the participants button. And if joined by phone, press 9 to raise your hand. I will repeat that if we have some online folks. No in-room, no external. Okay, then we will move over. Public comment is closed and we go on to the presentations. And first is the service awards.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I could ask Art to join me up at the podium.
Come on up, Art.
We we didn't rehearse in advance.
Happy to have you up here.
How are you, sir? Oh, I'm doing very well. Good to see you again. Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay? Can the audio pick up from this far away? Are we good? Yeah? All right, excellent. Well, I'm delighted to present to the board today a recognition of Art Marbut, otherwise known as Arthur Marbut III.
Well, formally, yeah, but not a general.
Well, I'm just paying homage to your mother there.
Yeah.
Art is celebrating 25 years as a community transit coach operator this year. Yes, exactly. I want to recognize that and talk a little bit about his career. We had a good chance to chat beforehand, and this is a second career for him, and he may address that in his own time. But Art is known for his customer service, and he's known for his friendliness and his support of new drivers. He's had numerous commendations over the years, beginning in 2001, a mere couple of years after he started here as a part-time coach operator. He's known as somebody who will always chip in. He's been known to help out at dispatch, help out with pre-checks when the buses are lined up in the morning and people are rushing to get out. And he's just known as an all-around good guy and friend to fellow coach operators. He is a huge Seahawks and Mariners fan, so he is well used to pain and suffering.
Yeah.
But he's known most as having a heart of gold and being one of the good folks around the base. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the executive leadership team for your 25 years of service to your fellow citizens here in Snohomish County, and also for all the support you've given your coworkers over the years as a teacher, mentor, and model for them. So Art, thank you very much and congratulations.
Yeah.
So we got some hardware here.
Okay, well,
There's a photographer behind you.
okay.
There's a 25-year pin.
Oh,
Yeah, and there's a 25-year
Okay.
certificate.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
Would
you.
like to say a few words?
Well, I mean, yeah, it has really been a journey here. 25 years has gone by awfully fast, but I really have enjoyed the job. I enjoy driving, and I come from I did a lot of retail sales and that kind of thing before, so I'm used to working with the public, so that part came natural. So anyway, anyway, I did come back, like I was telling Rick here, that I kind of came back to prove something, because I actually got hired at Metro in 1980. And that for a brief time, because I got paired up in a coach with two experienced drivers and had this gung-ho instructor who was like 35, and he just seemed to, all he was there for is make my experience as stressful as possible. And he basically, even though I don't know really why, he washed me out in 3 days. And I walked away really disappointed, but I came back. It took me almost 20 years, but I had a point to prove, and I think I proved it by now. So anyway, I had to prove it to myself I could do the job, and which I knew I could. But anyway, I've really enjoyed my time here, and I'm not quite done yet, but I'm not quite sure how much longer. But anyway, I'm still working. So
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you. Thank you. Okay,
Take care.
yeah.
This is also Art's very first board meeting in 25 years.
Okay, we'll move on to next presentation, which is the 2023 year-end performance report introduced by Olivia Woods.
I'm excited to bring a new presenter here for today. Thank you. Let's see. So this is Ian Hafey. He's been with Research and Analytics since 2020. And when he joined, he very quickly showed his expertise and is now the senior analyst on our team. And he's really instrumental in building out our data and reporting infrastructure here. And he's just an overall great person to work with. So I'm very excited to give him this opportunity to present last year's performance report.
Nope. There we go. Alrighty, well, I guess I'll move this thing on. I guess I'll start out by basically saying that we had an increase of 23% in our boardings from 2022 to 2023, increase in 1.3 million boardings over the course of the year. You can see on the top right here, we've kind of broken down those boardings into each one of our service types. So we had about 58% on bus, 35% on Swift, 5% on Vanpool, and the remaining 2% on Dart. On the bottom left, you can see how that breaks down year over year to see that each one of our service types is really increasing. Total, again, going from 5.8 million to 7.1 million. On the bottom right, you can see it broken down by kind of what day type we had. So we had 23,000 boardings on an average weekday, which is 4,000 higher than 2022. 12,000 boardings on your average Saturday, which was 2,000 higher than 2022. And 9,000 boardings on Sunday, which is also 2,000 higher than 2022. As far as how that aligns with our ridership goals, so we actually exceeded our goal for 2023 by about 5%. So we had a goal of 6.8 million, and we exceeded that goal across every one of our service types. So for bus service, we had a goal of 3.9 million, and we got to 4.2. For Swift, we had 2.4 million, and we exceeded that at 2.5. For Vanpool, we had 376,000, and we exceeded that and got 378,000. We actually did not have a ridership goal for our Dart service. Going over some of the kind of service statistics for our fixed route service. So we can see that our boardings were up by 23%, going from 5.4 million to 6.6 million. Our average weekday customers is up 37%, going from an estimated 8.3 thousand to 11.3 thousand. And that's in spite of the fact that the estimated boardings per customers actually went down to 1.9 boardings per customer last year. Our boardings per revenue hour just kind of a metric of how efficient we've been with our service, also increased by 24%, going from 15.5 boardings per revenue hour in 2022 to 19.2 in 2023. Our on-time performance went down slightly by 2%, going from 76% to 74%. Nothing too significant there. And our completed trips went up by 2.5%, going from 97, kind of right back up there to 99.5%. So this slide is showing how we've compared in our year-over-year boardings increase to the rest of the region. So we can see that this chart is aligned with the regional agencies that had the smallest increase at the bottom and the regional agencies with the largest increase at the top. The average increase across all regional agencies was 21%, and we actually exceeded that with 23% increase in ridership. We always like this chart. This kind of is just showing us our average weekly boardings kind of throughout the year. And we can see really clearly that drop in 2020 around March. And every year since then, we've had a nice kind of bump in ridership as we're getting back up to a more normal level. This is also showing in the top right corner our average weekly boardings, which went up from 105,000 throughout 2022 to 129,000 in 2020. Moving on to some van pool specific performance statistics, we had a 35% increase in boardings, going from 281,000 to 381,000. Our customers actually increased by 11%, going from 1.8 thousand to 2,000. Our boardings per revenue hour increased by 4%, going from 4.8 to 4.9. The amount of groups that we had operating went up by 17%, going from 242 to 282. And the days operated per month per group went up by 3%, going from 15.4 to 15.9. And it's really the days operated per group and the operating groups, which is the cause of our significant boardings increase. Similar to a few slides back, this slide is showing how that increase compares to the regional agencies that offer van pool. So again, the agencies with the smallest are actually negative increase are at the bottom, and the agencies with the largest increase in boardings at the top. Community transit is still slightly above the average. We had a 35% increase, and the region had an average of 29%. So if we move on to some DART specific information, we had a 16% increase in boardings, going from 105,000 to 121,000. Our customers went up by 10%, going from 2.1 thousand to 2.3 thousand. Our boardings per revenue hour went down by about 4%, from 1.9 to 1.8. Our on-time performance increased by 11.7 percentage points, going from 72% to 83.6%. And our completed trips went from 97.7% up to 98.9%. So a 1.2 percentage point increase there. This chart's similar to one we saw a few slides back, just kind of showing your average weekly boardings for DART service. We can see again that drop in 2020 and some steady increase from 2020 to 2021 and again to 2022. It looks like it kind of scaled off a little bit in the beginning of 2023, but really picked up there again towards the end of the year. All right. So in summary, we exceeded our ridership goal of 6.8 million boardings by 350,000 boardings system-wide, and all of our services had growth in boardings and customers when compared to 2022. Just a little bonus here, I wanted to kind of briefly discuss the Swift Orange launch. So as you guys probably are aware, Community Transit successfully launched Swift Orange on March 30th, so last Saturday. So I wanted to give some kind of introduction to how it's been doing since we started. So we've had a total of 809 completed trips so far as of yesterday, with 9,311 boardings. So you can see that so far our highest day of boardings was our launch day on Saturday. And then we've experienced some significant ridership since then. Yeah. Any questions?
Mayor Roberts?
Thank you, Ian. On one of your first slides, it has, it was a ridership slide. Keep going back. I'll tell you when you're there, that one.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Can you explain so, you have, like River Cities Transit, 14%, King County Metro. We're kind of in the middle and we're near the average, right? So what are some of the factors around increased ridership, like Ben Franklin Transit and I see Everett Transit? Did they have some outlying situations that caused them to grow?
I think it's a lot of agencies expanding past COVID. So I think that's a lot of Sound Transit. And then a bunch of the other agencies that are up towards the top are actually quite small. So
Oh,
a smaller
a little
increase in
bit.
ridership is a much larger
Okay,
percentage.
got it.
increase.
Yeah, that makes sense. King County Metro towards the bottom. So, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, it can also be related to how significantly they were impacted during the pandemic as well, like how far they dropped. And that's often related to their ridership base. So the type of rider that were on there, commuters that maybe were able to move to hybrid. So there's a lot of those demographics that affect how much they're still changing now.
Member Payne?
Thank you. Does any of this have any to the differences in the percentages, anything to do with driver availability? Do we know?
I can say that it is probably related to the amount of service that's been offered. And so that could be related to driver availability. We've been tracking, or the region has been tracking the percent of service compared to what it was before the pandemic. And so we've seen like all the agencies have kind of been at different levels of what they were pre and post. So that could be related, and that could be impacted by whether or not there are operators to operate it.
Okay, thank you.
Got a question for you. Lots of great numbers, lots of growth, and I don't want to key in on the one thing that was a negative, but it's what I do.
You saw that,
on-time
huh?
Performance. On-time performance went down. Is there a cause that we can remedy for that?
I think it's a very small change from year to year.
Yeah.
So there is lots of variability in our on-time performance. It would be kind of difficult to narrow down what that specific 2 percentage points are. Off the top of my head, I can just say that we have throughout 2022 and 2023, when we've reduced our service a little bit, that could have been part of that impact.
Okay.
And I can add too, it's something that I think we're always working at. So it's not, one big item. It's
Right.
continually being monitored and worked on. And I do know that traffic has increased over the last year. And I think that's created a little bit of this maybe, as we're always trying to adjust our schedules to accommodate for traffic. And if traffic's continually changing, we have to kind of catch up with that. So that could be related.
I know in Linwood, we had the big 196th project, and I thought, oh, did that impact? Is it impacted by all of the construction that's going on?
Linwood was the problem.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly wasn't.
Yeah. I'd like to revise my answer.
Thank you, Sid.
So the one thing I was happy to see is the DART service increases in the completed trips and on-time performance, because we were having a problem with that a year ago.
Yeah.
Or a little over a year ago. So, and some of that came from my city. So I was happy to see that. Hopefully it'll go up a lot more, because it's not quite up to this yet, but hopefully we got that contract all figured out and we got the right people doing it. So.
The council member was looking over here, so maybe a quick response. That's a contract that we continue to manage on a very hands-on basis. There was a lot of room for improvement in the DART service last year, and there continues to be room for improvement. So it's nice to see the trend in the right direction, but I wouldn't characterize it as where we want it. So Roland is having weekly meetings with that contractor leadership team and setting expectations and checking in regularly and trying to sustain that momentum. So.
Thank you.
Any questions? I have two. One of them is pretty simple. On one of your charts, you had a line called Customers Road Service. And could you explain what that is?
Oh, probably Van. We have customers on all three but this one shows road.
Yeah,
service.
that one, the total road service. What,
So that's the number of customers that are riding our service, I believe, on an average weekday.
This is the total for the year. So we had 2,000, around 2,000 unique people riding the service. So if you think about one van is having about 5 people and those same 5 are riding all year. And then as
Okay.
the groups kind of
thank you.
filter
Which
out.
actually leads, I think, into my a little bit more important question. Are we seeing any difference in the type of ridership now versus before the pandemic? Is our customer mix changing? People who would ride or didn't ride coming back? Anything like that we can notice?
In all of the modes, or are you thinking bus?
I'm thinking bus mostly, yeah.
Let's see. Well, I think, we're still seeing that our commuter routes are the most down. So that's a big demographic that has not come back as much as the rest of our service. During the pandemic, we didn't tend to lose as much of our local bus service. Those people are really used to using our service. They're dependent on it. So that shift there has changed the percentage of who's riding our service. I don't know if I have anything more. I'm trying to think back to our latest onboard survey of what we found.
What about youth?
Well, we did definitely see a significant increase in our ridership once we went youth fare free. So that has been a positive increase to our service.
One more question. So is there any opportunities in the market for additional growth that we've identified who the ridership includes and who doesn't it include?
Yes, that's a really exciting question. And it's part of something the research team and the marketing team are kind of working on to see, where we are really successful and why it's working so well for that group. And then trying to reach out to other people that maybe don't know that it could also work well for them that are similar. So we have very active conversation around that and working towards kind of collecting the data to do that work. Yeah, we're very excited.
Other questions? I'll just make the observation that as the bus service grows, it might take more cars off the street and our on-time performance will improve.
That would be good. I don't want to put another red one up there. We're going to get called out.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
presentation. It was exciting to see this. Ms. Luthen, you're up. Next up is the August 2024 fare change proposal.
Great, thank you. So just have a short presentation about a proposed fare change for this fall. This is a pretty minor change, all things considered, but still need to kind of go through a formal process and run it by you all. So first, oh, no, wrong way. Okay, so first, just a reminder of our upcoming major service change this fall. So our transit changes in 2024 and beyond network, that's a mouthful, was adopted by this board in 2023. That's a phased implementation of a brand new network in Snohomish County in 2024 through 2026. The major kind of pivot point for that service restructure is this fall when we will stop serving downtown Seattle and Northgate and instead run a series of new express routes to Linwood and Montlake Terrace light rail stations. And then along with that is an opportunity to add more frequent bus service throughout Snohomish County with those travel time savings. So that change kind of begs the question of what should our fare structure be in the future? This is our current fare structure. So as you see, we have our local and Swift fare. We have a commuter fare, which is a higher fare category, a premium fare, and then DART and Vanpool as well. And just a note that our Zip Alderwood shuttle follows our local bus fare structure. With that commuter service category going away, we need to kind of revise this table to reflect our system. So this is our proposed new fare structure. So you see that top category slightly renamed to bus and zip to just kind of capture all of the categories that fall into that fare group. you see that the commuter fare is eliminated, no more premium fare category. And there are no other changes to this fare structure, but I've still got DART and Van Poel up there for your reference. We did do a Title VI equity analysis on this proposed fare structure and found no significant, difference in benefit or negative impact on minority and low income riders compared to non-minority and low income riders. And then in the interest of kind of doing our due diligence, we wanted to get a sense of the revenue impacts of this change. It's important to note that this is really more a product of the network restructure as opposed to this proposed fare change, but nonetheless, we have an estimated 3% loss in fare revenue compared to kind of our current fare structure. That said, with the new express routes going into service that are just within Snohomish County, we don't see a justification for any kind of premium fare to continue to exist beyond that major service change. And then my last slide. So today's presentation, we're just kicking off a 30-day public comment period. So that's going to be today through May 3rd. We will have a public hearing at the May 2nd Board of Directors meeting where the public will have an opportunity to speak if anyone would like to. You can see on the right side of the slide there all the different ways that we gather public comments. So we have a web survey, a dedicated email address, social media, mail, our customer phone line. And then I will bring this item back to the board at the June board meeting for as an action item. And then, obviously we've got some big changes, in our system over the next year or two. So just a note there at the bottom that we will be kind of doing some additional thinking about what should our fares look like long term. So there may be additional board touch points in maybe 2025 to talk more about fares. But this is what we've got for this year. And that's all for me. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, the loss and fares on the one, is that based on our current numbers or numbers prior to COVID?
That's based on our current numbers. So
Okay.
it's 3%
So it could
of a
go up.
lower.
I mean, it couldn't, I don't mean we'll lose more money, but we will lose less money as more people ride.
Yeah, as ridership grows over time, then fare revenue would grow over time. So it's hard to capture that exactly. But yeah, that's sort of a point in time estimate for today's revenue compared to kind of this fall's change. But yeah,
Okay.
over time, we would still then expect some growth that would hopefully offset that.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I really do hate to be on a board like this where we get to be seen everywhere and I get to lay out my ignorance. But I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm not understanding, I must have missed this for the last 14 years or 13 years I've been here. Why is reduced fares on DART paratransit the same as a regular fee? And I guess the real question is what determines a reduced fare?
Yeah, that's our policy has been to not have a reduced fare on our DART service. I don't know all the history of that, but I think it's largely related to the high cost of providing that service.
Okay. Thank you.
Sophie, could you review sort of the criteria for qualifying for the low income fare? 'Cause I think
Yeah,
that's part of the question.
sure. Yeah, and I can go back to which one is backwards? The fare structure, or this is our current one. So yeah, so the reduced fares are Orca Lift, which is a low income category. So a certain percent of the federal poverty level, seniors 65 and over, and folks on Medicare. Those are the criteria for that fare category.
Other questions?
I have one for seniors. It's the reduced fare, $1.25. Was it $1.25 before? I thought when you take the light rail from Northgate on down, it's $1.
you're correct. It is $1 on light rail but it has been $1.25 on our service. That's, I mentioned kind of over the next year or two, thinking about other ways to rethink our fare structure. And that's one that we will consider as regional alignment on that, but ours has been $1.25.
I did notice that, but I keep thinking about the dollar. That's fine. Thank you.
Other questions? Online? Here? No? Okay. Thank you, Sophie. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the Chief Executive Officer's report. You can have all the time you need.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not used to that. Well, we are rather ripe with news these days. And so I do have some things to share, and we'll start with talking a little bit more about the orange line. As you can see, as you look out there, the glow has not worn off. There's a lot of smiles and there's a lot of good feeling around the buildings here as people are enjoying not only the launch on Saturday, but the service getting off to a really healthy start. The numbers that Ian and Olivia shared are right around the low end of the forecasted ridership in our grant application, and that's without light rail and without our network restructure that's coming this fall. So I think I'm pretty confident that we're going to see those numbers grow robustly as we realize the full network integration. Anyway, just a great day on Saturday. There's a few pictures that we captured for you to enjoy while we reflect, but the distinguished guests we had and everybody's participation and the ride over to the college were just super memorable. We had, in addition to the robust first day ridership, we had over 1,200 attendees at the block party over at the college, and just a really good day all the way around. We also generated over 2,000 signups for promotional Orca cards. So it was an opportunity for the marketing team to shine and add more customers to the portfolio. And of course, we saw just fantastic media coverage. So I think it was a combination of the launch of the new service and the excitement that's building for the even bigger changes that are coming this fall. And of course, the weather didn't hurt, but just made for a really special day. So we've been talking here over the last couple of days with the executive team and our senior managers and directors and the employees, just expressing gratitude and encouraging everybody to enjoy the moment because these things don't come along too often. So I want to thank the board again for your leadership and support of the agency. It's just, I can't tell you how satisfying it is to have a policy body that supports the agency having ambition to improve our products and grow our system. So I appreciate that on behalf of the employees. Couple other quick numbers on ridership and recruiting. It seems like we're hitting a lot of milestones these days. Melissa and her team just reported this morning that on Tuesday, the day before yesterday, we hit a record high since March of 2020 in boardings, and with 34,000 total boardings, which is pretty remarkable. That's starting to look like a 2019 ridership pattern. I'm not sure what contributed to that. There's new service, obviously. We added a couple routes in Edmonds. Obviously, the Mariners were in town and the weather was still good. So, there's probably a lot going on there, but that was a really amazing sign of robust ridership growth. In addition to that, the Zip shuttle hit another milestone, 50,000 total riders since its inception. And I'm pleased to report that wait times for Zip are now back under 15 minutes. That was an important metric for us, and we've hit that. And then on the recruiting side, we crested 400 total coach operators last week. I think we have 404, and that just speaks to the continuing outstanding work in the recruiting and training groups. And I see Cesar out there, and under his leadership, we're in good shape, headed toward our goal of 425 coach operators for the fall service change. Speaking of which, there is news today. We do have a date now for the startup of the Link Light Rail system up to Linwood, and it is Friday, August 30th. So mark your calendars if you're curious about that. I won't talk about it too much because I'm sure Mayor Frizell will have some things to add during her report later. But that's really important because it now gives us a target to focus our planning on, and we're on the clock. We've got a lot to do to get ready. One significant thing I would report is that at Sound Transit's request, both we and King County Metro will be shifting our service change, which had been planned for August 31st, to Saturday, September 14th. And so that will give Sound Transit a couple of weeks to get the service up and running, get it dialed in before we start to flood the zone with bus transfers at those 4 new stations between us and our friends at King County. So a lot of coordination to come, a lot of outreach, a lot of communication, a lot of internal work to get ready. And so we'll be talking with the board about that to give you a preview of how we're tackling that at our April board workshop in a couple of weeks. Moving on, some activities out in the field. I've been continuing to maintain a good amount of outreach, meeting some of the new elected officials. I met with the mayor of Arlington and then the mayor of Edmonds, Mayor Rosen. We've had a couple of meetings down in Seattle with WashDOT and Sound Transit, continuing our coordination to get ready for the Revive I-5 project. And so, just a lot going on there to get ready. We are entering April, which is Earth Month, and so we've been working with and coordinating with the Snohomish County PUD on Earth Day, their Earth Day block party to showcase our partnership with them on our zero emission transition. And speaking of that, when the administrator was here from FTA, Administrator Vanderpool, we took her over to see our battery electric bus, and she got a huge kick out of that. And our comms team was able to do an interview with her and capture that on video and send it back to her to support their efforts to, promote the transition of diesel to ZE fleets across the country. So we did also receive our fuel cell electric bus about a week and a half ago, and I sent out a note about that. Mike Suela and his team are busily getting it ready for the road, along with the battery electric bus, and we look forward to launching our side-by-side pilot later in the year, probably in May. And then last, sort of on the outreach front, we're co-hosting with Snohomish County, the Washington State Transportation Commission. They're coming up to the city of Edmonds to have their meeting. And so we'll be hosting a tour and providing a bus for them to ride around South County and look at all the different projects that the different partners are engaging in. And then we'll provide a presentation for how all the transit network integration work is going to play out this fall. So that's exciting. Quick touch on the legislative report. Normally, this would be the meeting that we would be providing a post-session legislative report. We do have a written report in your packets. Devore Jurassic, our contract lobbyist, is on Zoom. If you have any questions about anything that you see here, I would just do a couple of quick verbal highlights. It was a short session, as you know. Our legislative agenda was fairly modest. We worked with our legislators before session to lay the groundwork for that, and we were just asking them to try to keep our funding opportunities intact for our BRT program. And I'm happy to report that our friends in the legislature did do that. So we were able to preserve funding allocations for the Green Line extension, the Gold Line, and eventually the Silver Line at 10 million each. And that came through Move Ahead Washington, as you know. A lot of intrigue in Olympia with cost pressure on the Move Ahead Washington program. So I think it's pretty notable that we're able to keep our funding allocations intact. A couple other legislative highlights. There was a mutual aid agreement bill that was adopted and passed, and that was important to our safety and security team because it allows organizations other than law enforcement to participate in mutual aid agreements to prepare in advance for emergent issues, for incidents, for disasters and whatnot that require a coordinated agency response in emergency situations. So that was notable, and we were happy to support that. There were several other bills that affect PTBAs, including another regarding OPMA.
that includes a requirement about the dates of public comment periods. And of course, we already comply with these requirements as a best practice. Notably, the legislature did not act on the House Initiative 2117 to repeal the Climate Commitment Act. They've let that go to the voters, and that will now be a question on the fall ballot. That would repeal the sections of the Climate Commitment Act that provide funding for transit and some of our other programs, and so including the transit support grants and the BRT funding. So I've asked the finance team to prepare an analysis of how that might affect us if it is eventually enacted. There were a couple of governance reform bills, as you know, that were introduced and heard, and we were asked to participate in those hearings and talk to the committees on the House and Senate side about how we do public engagement and what we do to go the extra mile to try to include people in informing our board's decision making. And so we did that. Those bills did not advance. So it's likely we'll be back next session talking about those issues again. So I will stop there for the legislative report. One last thing I just wanted to note, a note I sent out to the board earlier in the week. We were informed by our colleague Kathleen Custer that she's hanging up the cleats after 27 years here at CT, and most of those heading up ATU Local 1576. She sent out a very gracious farewell message, and we're just sorry to see her go. Feel very good and very grateful for the partnership we've had with her, and in particular my 3 years of tenure. And it's going to be sad to see her go. She's been as you know, a tireless and vocal advocate for the employees, and is moving on to new opportunities. So I wanted to make sure we highlighted that here today. So that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. And we'll move now on to the committee reports, of which I had one. And I just turned my mic on so you can hear me. The executive committee report, the executive committee met on March 21st. Mayor Frizzell, Mayor Roberts, Council Member Schweddy, and I attended. An executive session was held for labor negotiations update. The CEO report was provided, and the next committee meeting is scheduled for April 18th at 11:30. But I want to backtrack because I forgot to ask if anybody had any questions for Rick or Mr. Jurassic. Okay. The executive committee report stands. Moving on to the Finance and Performance Oversight Report with Mayor Roberts.
Thank you. The Finance, Performance and Oversight Committee met on Thursday, March 21st, 2024 in a Zoom format. Board members, Councilmember Jared Mead, Mayor John Naring, Councilmember Jan Sweaty, and I attended. In terms of consent items, the committee reviewed and recommended 2 items to the consent agenda. Number 1, the approval of January 2024 monthly expenditures and payroll vouchers will be items 7C through G on the consent agenda, and an award for RFP 2024-007 Web Developer Consulting Services. In terms of action items, the committee reviewed and recommended 1 item to the action agenda, award RFP number 2024-001 fuel contracts. In terms of reports, August 2024 fare change proposal, Sophie Luthen, Manager of Strategic Planning, presented to the committee the August 2024 fare change proposal. A copy of this is in your packet, and we just heard from Sophie just a moment ago. The Q4 performance report, Ian Haffey, Senior Analyst of Research and Analytics, presented to the committee the Q4 performance report, and a copy of that report's in your packet. And we also just heard from Ian, and thank you. The Q4 finance report, unaudited, Nathan Roberts, Senior Director of Finance, presented to the committee the Q4 financial report, and a copy of this report is included in your packet. Number 4, sales tax report for February 2024, unaudited. In February 2024, Community Transit collected approximately $19.1 million in sales tax revenue, approximately $115,000 more than budgeted. A copy of this report's in your packet. And then lastly, the diesel fuel update and report for February 2024. The average cost year to date through February 2024 was $2.99 per gallon, while the average cost per gallon budgeted for 2023 was $4.25. This resulted in a favorable variance of $1.26 per gallon year-to-date through February. The next Finance, Performance, and Oversight Committee meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. Thursday, April 18th, 2024, via hybrid, Zoom, and in person. And that concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts. Next is the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee, Mayor Frizzell.
Yes, the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee meeting was held remotely over Zoom on March 20th at 2:00. It was attended by myself, Mayor Frizzell, Councilmember Daughtry, Mayor Marine, Councilmember Peterson, and Labor Representative Norton. The committee did a lot of great work and forwarded one item to today's action agenda. Award RFP 2023-104 telephone system replacement. The next meeting for the committee is scheduled for Wednesday, April 17th at 2:00.
Yeah, but it was a bloody Zoom meeting.
I didn't talk about that.
Thank you, Mayor Frizzell. Moving on to the consent items. Could I get a motion to approve the consent?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve all of the consent items. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Consent items are approved. Okay, on to the action items. First, we'll talk about the awarding of the RFP 2023-04, the telephone system replacement. Ann Martin.
Afternoon.
Good
So we're,
Go ahead. I was just going to introduce myself. So I'm Charles Stearns, the CIO, and this is Ann Martin, who is both our manager over our IT operations and transit operations department, our division, and also the key leader for this RFP.
okay, so I'm here today to talk about the replacement of our existing telephone system. Are you going to run the slides?
I will.
Great.
Yes, I am trainable.
We'll see about that.
So the phone system that we're seeking to replace is an on-premise telephone system that we've had here since 2008. It was actually one of my first projects at Community Transit when I first joined. So there is no direct replacement for our phone system, which led us into a procurement for a completely new system. So to cover the current phone system, it provides telephone services for all of Community Transit, including our call center, our dispatch center, in-office overhead paging for reaching coach operators, our Orca call center, ride store, front desk, service desk, our security operations center, basically any phone service at Community Transit. So in 2023, Community Transit completed a series of feasibility studies, and we gathered requirements for replacement of our existing core telephone system, replacement of Bus Finder by phone, which is a way for customers to receive automated stop information through our call center, and addition of a new web chat functionality through our website. Our requirements gathering determined that a single collaboration solution could meet all three needs. So on September 23rd, 2023, we issued an RFP. We received 6 proposals in response to the RFP. The vendor Computer Talk Global was highest ranking in that overall evaluation by a significant amount. So the cost information total price for implementation and 1 year of operation is $406,190. In looking at our independent government cost estimate, we found that the core telephone system and Bus Finder was $943,990. So the price to replace the system with additional capacity and additional functionality is very reasonable.
So if awarded, we plan to break the project into 3 phases. The first phase would be a proof of concept of our core telephone system. Again, that's the piece that we must replace by July 2025. So we'll focus on that piece first, starting with the proof of concept and then proceeding into replacement of the existing phone system. Phase 2, which will likely be in 2024 also, if awarded, would be a proof of concept and implementation of a web chat. So again, that would be the ability of our customers to chat through the website with our call center personnel. That is new functionality. And then phase 3 is replacement of the existing Bus Finder by phone solution, the ability for customers to receive automated stop information through the phone system. And that system is operational right now. It's archaic, difficult to support, and nearing end of life as well, but it does work. So that would be the last phase, proof of concept, and then replacement of that service. And we will structure the award such that if any of the proof of concept phases do not succeed, that we would not be on the hook for purchase of those pieces. Questions?
Questions?
Yeah.
Councilmember Schwedik.
So does the cost replace all the phones or just the access?
So are you talking about the physical phones?
Yeah, the physical phones, are all them going to be replaced or is it just access
So
that we're buying?
the cost does include a physical phone replacement, but with this new solution, it's not necessary. So you can answer your phone through your cell phone, through an application on your cell phone, or you could also answer it through your computer or through any other mobile system that you may have. If you wish to have, people wish to have a phone, we could provide a phone at their desk, but this for the most part is doing away with that need.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So obviously this the old phone system in 2008, I mean, that's technology days and years, that's really outdated. Is this new system going to be quite a bit functionally better? I mean, in terms of how people operate on a day-to-day basis, or is it going to be more complicated or what? How would that work?
So I would say potentially both, but from an end user perspective,
curve,
from a learning curve. So it does use the Microsoft Teams backbone, which we already have invested in at Community Transit. So we're leveraging that existing investment, as well as the fact that most employees, they place calls right now through Teams. However, our phone system, it's through, employee to employee calls. They're not able to call outside or receive outside calls. So the new, this implementation will allow that piece to work fully the way it's intended. The call center piece will be significantly different, but also leveraging the Teams backbone piece. So, but in terms of its capabilities, it can do a lot more things. As you would imagine, technology has evolved quite a bit. So the interface with web chat, the integrated voice response, which is for Bus Finder by phone, a lot of those technologies have come a long way.
Just real quickly, without getting in the weeds, how does that web chat work with this system? I mean, in terms of how would that work?
So if you go to Community Transit's website, what we envision is a chat with us button that you would click on. And then that call would come into the call center, which again is an application within the Teams type interface. And that would be prioritized with all of the other phone calls. So for the customer service agent, they would see, phone call, maybe a web chat, then a phone call. And when we set the agents up, we can set up different skills. So we could set it up so an agent could take a phone call at the same time they take a web chat or not. But choose how those are prioritized. But it would come into the queue and be organized in whatever fashion we choose.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Other questions?
I would imagine that our Teams license is a separate license from anything else, right? Is that a total different contract?
It's part of our Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. So
Is that particular piece the one that has to be decoupled based on the new law that came out of Europe?
not that I've heard of. We're in existing contract with Microsoft right now that continues through next year. So I have not heard of anything, but I will check into that.
I'm wondering, the only thing I'm actually wondering about that is if there going to be any kind of a significant cost increase because Teams is just decoupled from Microsoft Office.
I will investigate.
Most likely. Any questions? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. My question is there going to be any Public Records Act implications with the chats and the online sort of aspect, and how would that be handled? I honestly have no idea.
So we'll work, so right now we do retain phone calls per public records requirements. We'll be working with our legal teams to set the requirements for retaining web chat and any other type of collaboration that's recorded as part of this system to make sure that we comply with laws.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions? Seeing none, could I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate an award contract number 2023-104 telephone system replacement to Computer Talk Global Corporation for 1 year with 4 additional 1-year renewal options not to exceed the amount of $1,060,426.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I will say this as an old IT guy, that 16 years on a telecommunication systems is like 150 years in people time.
It's been a good system.
Okay, no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is approved. Next is to award the RFP 2024-01 fuel contract. Mr. Suela.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to be here to talk to you about renewable diesel. So let's see if I can figure out these buttons. Start off, I've been looking into renewable diesel and excited about it for at least 3 years, but it used to be prohibitively expensive and not really available in this area. And finally, it's starting to come to a point where it is viable for us to use. But let's start with what it is. It's they call it an advanced biofuel, but really it's something that burns, is chemically identical to diesel. It's a drop-in fuel replacement. You don't have to clean your tanks. You don't need special filters. You don't need to make any changes other than to tell your vendor, I want this, not that. So we don't have anything we have to do. It's different than biodiesel. Biodiesel, we run a B5 biodiesel blend. So it's 95% conventional diesel out of, the oil sands or hydraulic fracturing or, drilling somewhere, and 5% bio, which is cooking oil or wherever they get it. They blend it together and we run it. If we were to run more than 5%, we would have to change our filters and do all these other things. And it's hard on engines. It's just, they don't like, and they don't perform well with much more than a 5% blend. The beauty of R99 is that it is chemically identical. However, in the manufacturing and refining process, they take all the feedstocks and they refine it together to the point where it is chemically identical to pure diesel. And you can kind of see in this picture where the burning smoke, it's a pure form. It's, if you look at diesel, it often has kind of a yellowish tint to it, and the renewable diesel is almost clear. It just has less impurities in the process from however they refine it all together. There was a question that came up in committee about where exactly does it come from, right? They talk about biomass feedstocks and oils and animal fats. Our procurement team, as they were working on this procurement, what they were looking at Oregon, they were looking at California because they've been ahead of the curve on renewable diesel. So they took a lot of the best practices on the RFPs and they put an RFP, and one of those is the producer had, where does this come from? And make sure it doesn't contain palm, right? There are parts of the world where palm is a big feedstock for these renewable diesels, but palm is not very environmentally friendly. They mow down some areas and raise palm in others, and we wanted to avoid that. So our producer did come up with a list of where exactly what we're proposing comes from. It's mostly canola oil. There's some corn oil, some soybean, used cooking oil gets mixed in, and then some tallow. And that's the animal fat part that, I'd kind of raised some concern. As a byproduct of some meat industries, there's some leftover tallow fats that would otherwise be disposed of that gets harvested and reused in this process, so it doesn't go to waste in a landfill. But yeah, somehow through some magic at a refinery, they take all this stuff, they mix it together, and they turn it into diesel that'll burn in our buses, which to me is incredible. Why are we doing it? Well, we're not first to the market here. TriMet went and they switched to completely 100% renewable diesel a couple of years ago. I think in their first year, they reported like something around $100,000 in maintenance savings, which is a nice big number. But when you look at the size of their fleet, it's maybe only $50 a bus or something. But regardless, it's, there's upstream benefits because of the emissions. We're not drilling into the ground. We're not fracking. We're not doing all these things. It's coming from renewable resources. So they score a lot of these fuels with what they call a carbon intensity score. And so the upstream benefits of where it comes from, it's a much lower carbon intensity fuel. And then on the downstream benefits, because it is a pure fuel and it burns cleaner, there's less carbon deposits. Right now we have what we call an EGR service. So once every, 50,000 miles, we're taking parts off the engine, we're cleaning carbon deposits out of the EGR system. We take the diesel particulate filter out, we put it in a special cleaning machine, we do all these things. Fleets that have been running R99 for a long period of time, what they see is they have less carbon buildup in their engines, and they're not cleaning those diesel particulate filters as often. So we're looking forward to seeing some similar benefits, assuming we switch to this. It's been a problem in Washington getting this. When I first started looking into it, a lot of it was, produced in the Southeast and brought up here by rail car. But as it's become more popular and more readily available, now there is supply in Washington. It's not being produced in Washington yet, but it will be soon. Right now, the local supply is out of Tacoma. Our vendor has a relationship with the supplier in Tacoma. It might be coming up by rail. We're not 100% sure, but I'm not 100% sure this time. We could figure that out if you want. But it's coming into the Tacoma, and then they pick it up from there and bring it all over this area. So I was just going to touch on the interruptions. Sorry, I'm excited about R99. I love it. So our procurement team did a ton of work on this. I kind of mentioned all the work they did looking at the contracts already existing in Oregon and California. The other benefit to this contract that they put together is if for any reason the supply of R99 was ever interrupted, we would just switch back to conventional diesel at the same pricing as that they're offering us with the R99. Cost. Here's an exciting part. So procurement's excited about this, or everybody's excited about this because our procurement team went forward and they put out something and the market really responded. We got a number of responses, a number of downloads to the packet. We had a cross-functional team looking at all the responses and awards, and the proposed vendor is offering 8 cents a gallon less than the Opus rack price. So on state contract for diesel right now, we're paying us 1 penny per gallon above rack price. And to get it, a net 9 cents difference is just simply incredible. I think they're on the next slide, there's some savings. So based on that kind of 9 cents net, we're looking at annual cost savings of $270,000 on the diesel side, and on the unleaded side, about a $14,000 savings. So this is one of those extremely rare times when the better product is less expensive. So the RFP was issued, 11 vendors downloaded, 6 vendors proposed. It was extremely competitive. We did the evaluation and we have a recommendation for Associated Petroleum Products. There's an estimated cost up there, which covers, diesel, the commodity, the price fluctuates. The same thing with the unleaded. So we have a total annual price based on our usage now, and then a contingency for price fluctuations or any, service changes that would increase mileage and increase fuel usage, but a not to exceed contract amount of 11.2 million for this period, including fees and taxes. So it's budgeted for in the 2024 budget, and it will cover fluctuations in the market with fees and taxes. So I have a recommendation that the board of directors authorize the chief executive officer to negotiate and award contract RFP number 2024-001, keep full renewable diesel and gasoline supply and delivery to Associated Petroleum Products for a not to exceed amount of 11.2 million per year for a 5-year period. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes, the one thing I caught right off the bat was animal fat. So is there a way for you to explain how they're going to do that? And here's my concern is I'm assuming it's animals they're killing, that they're feeding steaks to us or whatever. But if this becomes a thing, will we find people who are out there killing animals just for the fat to go into this gas?
No, not by anything I've seen at all. It's just byproducts from the meat industry. And so if that supply dries up, they would have to find other feedstocks. I don't think that any producer that would be, you know, no one that's currently running renewable diesel, I think would be okay with that. If you look at kind of where it started in California and now in Oregon, and these requirements that all the feedstocks are documented where it came from. I mean, not only this board, but I assume every board of every transit agency up and down the West Coast would not find that palatable.
Well, I would assume too that there are probably places that are creating the fat that they're just throwing away. And as soon as they learn, because this is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this.
Mhm.
And so once that gets out, then they're liable to be able to access fat from somebody else then.
Yeah, if it's waste now and you can sell it, they will try to sell it.
Okay, would be curious to find out who it was that they discovered this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Questions?
Question.
Okay.
So this second time I've heard the presentation, Mike, so now I have a question that's come to my mind. Basically, is this an additive? Is this like ethanol that's added to regular diesel? It's not. So
No.
you're calling it diesel, but this is a whole different product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the way the diesel regulations exist, why we call it R99, it has to be the additive. I mean, in the sense that biodiesel is considered an additive, and that's why we say B5, because it's 5% biodiesel and it's added to 95% diesel. Something has to mix with diesel. So R99 is essentially 100% renewable diesel, but it might be mixed with 1% conventional oil derived diesel. But it's a drop-in replacement fuel, not like an ethanol blend where you have to blend it with.
So it's really not a carbon fuel at all then, really, is it? Or
It is in the sense that it's chemically identical to diesel that's derived from oil drilled from the ground.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, you're still exploding hydrocarbons, right?
Does it
And
smell like diesel? I mean, is it?
I don't know yet.
Yeah. As excited as you are, I thought maybe you sniffed it. a
Yeah,
couple
not
times.
yet.
But
If everything goes well, talk to me next week.
okay.
Sounds like French fries.
But it burns cleaner. And
Yes.
to Councilmember Sweaty's question, are we talking fat? Are we talking about the rendering?
Yes.
We're talking about rendering, and there's not much left when it gets to rendering, right? I mean, there's just very few things on an animal, a cow, that they don't use. And so this is the very end of the chain, right?
That's correct. And it's second to the bottom of the list of ingredients, with used cooking oil being at the bottom. So it's the smallest percentage.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Questions? Councilmember Payne.
Thank you. So what are the implications for the clean air standards? And I'm certain that you have some obligations there. So what are the implications with that?
Well, currently, I think one of the reasons why the fuel is so economically viable is the producers are getting credits under some of the, if the question is about, the implications on what happens if it gets repealed in the fall, then we would default potentially if the supply runs out because it's no longer financially viable to produce, we would default under this contract back to the
So
regular
this
diesel.
is in relation to the CCA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know what the reduction in the particulate matter is going to be?
You see it because there's the upstream on the production side and then the downstream on the less carbon emissions. I don't have quantifiable numbers yet on what that is, but it is reduced just kind of anecdotally based on fewer DPF cleanings.
Okay.
And it's, what the next standards are going to be. I think there's another bump in 2027 for EPA to be determined on that.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Interesting.
Are there savings to be had that you've quantified yet in, you're saying it runs cleaner in the engine, so there's less maintenance in there. Savings that you're not baking into our savings right here. And plus, are there any savings from, do you need to use urea mix anymore with this?
Yeah, we'll still have to run the diesel exhaust fluid.
Okay,
So no savings there yet.
okay, thank you. But did you quantify how much maybe will say additional savings will be for less maintenance on the engines?
Not yet. TriMet's experience in the first year, they had reported out 100,000 or somewhere thereabouts. So hard to say until we have data. Every fleet is going to run a little different.
Yeah, thank you. Any further questions?
Oh, we've got one up there. Storm.
Oh,
No.
no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was highlighted in green.
Seeing no more questions, could I get a motion?
I move the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate an award contract RFP 2024-001. Keep full renewable diesel and gasoline supply, delivery to associated petroleum products for not to exceed amount of 11,200,000 per year for a 5-year period.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I have one comment on it. What I was really delighted to see in your presentation that I read about this, went out online a little bit, and they would talk about the sources of all this, and they'd get down through the plants and all that, and then there'd be this hand waving on, here's the rest of it. And so I was wondering what the hand waving rest of it was, and I was really delighted that you have investigated Clear Down very, very thoroughly on the source of this. And I guess my comment on that is, as this gets more popular and getting to Councilmember Schwette's, that as we begin sourcing it more and more, that we do pay attention to whether it becomes a hidden carbon footprint or more movement to cut down more Amazon forest, plant more soybeans and things like that. But for right now, I'm very delighted to see that the thoroughness of the investigation on this. Okay, no more discussion. Seeing none, could I, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And saves 270,000.
Okay, the next is the chair's report. Rick covered most of it early on, but I was very delighted with the way the Orange Line launch went. Congratulations to everyone who was associated with that. It was smooth. It was enjoyable. It was fun, and it seemed to go off without a hitch. And whatever the team was that was in charge of the weather, special kudos to you. Next, the quarterly board workshop is scheduled for April 18th at 3 p.m. And the topics will include the 2024 fall service change, which we got a preview of today, and an update on the Swift Gold Line. I think that's one that runs through Snohomish, right?
No.
And the next regular meeting is scheduled for May 2nd at 3 p.m. There is no executive session today. Is there any other business for people to bring up? Well, I will. That's next.
Mr. Chair, I'm so used to rushing in my CEO report. And you gave me all the time I needed and I didn't take advantage of it. But I skipped over one item I mentioned at the executive committee last week, and for the benefit of the board and the public, it is grant season, and we have submitted and are in the process of submitting for a couple of different important grants. One is with the EPA climate pollution reduction grants. We're part of a regional coalition organized through PSRC that's requesting almost 200 million in pollution reduction grants, and our small piece of that is 7 million for electric bus procurement. So I wanted you to know that went in. And then we're on the verge of submitting our low or no emission and bus facilities program grant. That'll be approximately 30 million, which is due next week. And we've been working busily with our congressional partners to get letters of support, and local partners as well for that. And then finally, in addition, we're working with our individual delegation offices on congressionally directed spending requests, all in support of our capital program. So more to come there. Just wanted you to know that work was underway. to support our financial plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Board communication, we'll start with the most anxious, Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you for pointing that out. I just wanted to say that I want to let everybody know that the PSRC Transit Caucus has been canceled for this month. And also I would want to express my appreciation for the staff on what happened on Saturday. I know that that was a lot of work and you joyfully did that. And I think you showed that you really enjoyed what you did. And it really showed. Everybody I talked to was having a good time and it was just, it was a great time. I didn't get to attend the party, but the ribbon cutting, everything, it went off really, really well. So thank you for everything you guys did. And I'm sure we'll do it again.
Councilmember Payne.
Thank you. I just ditto the same with the Orange Line, the bus rapid transit. I had a blast and everybody else did too. It was smiles all the way around. You brought in all the right people and it was a huge success. And also I want to also say thank you to Edmonds College for hosting the block party. And it was well received. And all the comments were very excited about having multimodal transportation finally coming across the county line. So very excited to see what happens in August. So thank you.
Councilmember Schwetti.
Well, you're going to hear a lot of this. But I really want to thank the staff because it takes every single one of you to put that together and to organize that many people so that the whole thing fits together the way it did on Saturday was just phenomenal. And I would have loved, I didn't see it up here, but would have loved for someone to have taken a picture of all you guys together instead of all these people you only meet once or twice in your lifetime. But one of these days you need to do that. But thank you so much. That was a super event. Oh, and by the way, I think it was Rachel who did the parking this time, because when we had the opening of the Orange Line, yeah, transportation and how you got to the parking lot. Oh my gosh, I got lost and 3 different people had to get my car in, but this time it was just right on. And everything you said got us right to the parking lot. So thank you.
Mayor Roberts.
Thank you. Sad to say goodbye to Kathleen Custer, and she's done the agency and as you mentioned, well, and her proud papa over here. We're not going to pretend like he's not very proud of her. We will miss her. She's a great lady and a very smart person. I called in today. I ended up with 3 Orca cards somehow or other. Maybe some of you have more than that. I don't know, but it seemed a little confusing. So I called the customer service today and talked to a Jenny, and she was very helpful. Of course, when you tell them you're elderly on the phone, it really kind of sped things up. But she was very nice, very friendly, and I appreciated that. And also, just as everyone has said, the Orange launch was awesome, and we all enjoyed it. So thanks staff and everyone that put that together. Thank you.
Mayor Frizzell.
Yeah, Saturday was an amazing day, and I know it took hundreds of days and hours and lots of people to bring it off. And you know, I'm just so happy that Linwood was the big recipient for a lot of it. But it's Linwood all the way to McCollum Park. I walked from my home, which is just a few blocks from Edmonds College, and got on the bus and took it to the transit center, had a wonderful conversation with Matt Black. And he was so excited to be a driver. And the very first day, we had great conversation. And it was just a gold star event all the way around. So many thank yous for that. And not to take anything away from that, because we're all working together. We're all about transit. Thursday is my transit day. And it's exciting that our next big thing in Linwood is going to be Sound Transit Link Light Extension, 148 days and counting. But again, it's not just Linwood, it's all of Snohomish County coming together, community transit, zip line, van pools coming into our city, and Malik Terrace and the 2 stops in Shoreline. Already we're planning for a pretty big party. So just thankful for this organization, and not just the organization, but the way that this organization works, and that Rick is accessible all the time. And it makes it all worthwhile, all the hours and all the days you want to tear your hair out, and most of us don't. But thank you, everybody.
I wanted to swing back and I started too far to the right. Rep Norton.
Thank you. I'm used to being ignored on this board. No, I do want to concur with the nice comments of Rick and the staff that did an outstanding job. It was wonderful, and we were all proud to be part of this this agency and this board. Also, the nice words about Kathleen. I think there's been some elderly in their graves labor leaders that turned over just recently. I was not there yet, but I turned over too. Anyhow, I'm sure she'll do very well, and thank you all for your kind words.
Thank you. Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo everything that people said about Saturday, but I just wanted to just say what a event that it was. And for me, you know, to go to Edmonds College, it's easier for me to just drive there. But I'm glad I took the Orange Line, because when you are on a public transportation, it takes you to a route that, even though you know that route in a car, when it's a route that you take in a bus, everything looks different. And I'm so glad that I had that opportunity. I'm lucky that I have choices. Other people don't have choices. And this is a fantastic line to put together several cities and some colleges together. So, wow. I just can't say enough about it. And I'm so glad I was there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mead.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Councilmember Peterson.
Just echoing the congratulations to the staff for the great event on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Councilmember Gallagher.
Just several more underscores for the appreciation of the event. Absolutely correct.
I have one more.
Oh.
I want to say whoever got the Lego sets and gave those out, that was just phenomenal. I have had requests for at least a dozen more of those. My daughter put it together and brought it to me at City Hall on Monday, and everybody who saw it wants one. So if you happen to have any extras, maybe we can get them out on eBay and, you know, make some funds.
My wife was so excited.
Yeah. It was pretty
I couldn't
cool.
talk her into going to the party, but when she got that Lego box, oh my God.
The administrator's aide was particularly interested in making sure that there were several Lego sets headed back to Washington DC. So yeah.
She was particularly interested, yes.
Okay, any other comments, communications? Seeing none, then thanks everyone for being here today. I think it was a good day for good decisions and healthy debate, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.